Welcome back to Next Up Haunted Adventures. Today we're going to be reviewing Night Terrors in Ypsilanti, Michigan. As a whole in the front of the park, it was done well on the outside with all the decor. They did have signs. It was hard to find where each one was. The Sideshow Package was an additional package you could add onto your ticket for an additional $10. I did not feel it was worth it. For the $10 you get Splatter Town zombie paintball and you also got alien cage clowns. So Splatter Town, the zombie actors showed no signs of actually being hit because there were actors that were moving around in there. I believe one for each person shooting. And not showing signs of being hit kind of takes the fun out of it. You're just shooting at something that's, you don't see the paintballs hitting, you don't see them taking any effects. Even if they are actually getting hit by them and it doesn't hurt, it would help if they acted like they're getting hit. It gives you more motivation to continue shooting. They also advanced in only one direction instead of making it challenging to hit them. Not that you were hitting them, we didn't see any paint on them or any indication that they were actually being hit. So it felt like we were just shooting air. And then alien cage clowns took about 2 to 3 minutes to go through, if that. And from what I read online, it was nothing like the story that they advertised. They were just clowns. Murderous clowns. They were not weird monsters from space that were dressed up to look like kind of like clowns. There were only like 2 actors in the whole thing, and it's been around for at least a couple of years, and it looked like it was quickly assembled and not much to it. I would not have spent extra money for this package had I known things were this subpar. For the big 4 that they advertised for your ticket, the first one that I went to was Hayride of the Lost. They had a good setup and design, good acting, good animatronics. Some issues with those were no noise with some of them, and you heard the clunking and hissing sounds from the animatronics, so maybe adding some music and sound effects would cover that up. It was very staged in each area, but it was enjoyable. The pyrotechnics were a good choice in catching people off guard, and the free cider donuts at the end of the Hayride were pretty good. And the Hayride, in my opinion, was the best attraction there. Wish they would expand upon this instead of overstretching themselves by having the other haunted houses that I thought were subpar. So the next one that I went to out of the big 4 was the Asylum. The Asylum was very dark in areas, but was kind of fun to feel your way through. There was an actor that had earbuds in and was not paying attention to our group and never did his job. But ultimately, it wasn't very memorable except for the darkness and the super heavy strobe lighting in an area, which could have been utilized better because of the white paneling that were reflecting the strobes and fog, but it wasn't utilized very well. Maybe have a rail to follow because people were running into each other and into walls and they were hitting their heads. The Mine Shaft was the 3rd attraction of the big 4. It had really cool heavy machinery setups, very good usage of lighting, fog, and set design. They suffered from poor animatronic usage as the rest of the indoor haunts, which I will elaborate in about a minute or so, and maybe they can think about rework motion sensors. There were too few actors in most of the haunts as well, which I will also elaborate on a little bit more. The last one that I went to was the Ultimate Haunted Barn. That was the last of the big 4. They had a really good actor in the beginning. They got a lady's name and he yelled it once, but it was never utilized to make her uncomfortable throughout her experience. So he yelled the name in hopes that the actors would yell it and make her uncomfortable, but that never happened. And they had a really cool animatronic that actually had noise to it, but other than that, that one was also not super memorable. And then after you exit the Ultimate Haunted Barn, you exit into their store because they're an apple orchard. My only problem is the only exit is the cashier's line, which is kind of like a scheme, I feel. It's great to sell your farm's products, but don't make people feel forced to wait in this long line and buy your food. There was no other exit available, so you had to ask people to move and squeeze by the cashier, ringing up a person. You need to make an exit area for people not interested in buying anything. Don't make people feel as though you have to buy something, especially after you're paying so much for a ticket already. So overall, acting was good, but timing of the haunt animatronics was very off. As soon as the person went through, the animatronics went off, which that's not the problem. But for each individual in the group, they were set off again. They went off several times before you even left the room, and the repetitiveness of this happening with almost every animatronic really took away any scares and immersion to be had. A remedy for this would be to have an actor do this instead, so that they can time it accordingly. Another animatronic problem was obvious clunky sounds and hissing that could be covered up with music and other sound effects. Some of the animatronics within the indoor haunts were very good, but after they popped up, they lingered for too long and really hindered the scare factor and immersion. You generally want them to go back and reset in seconds. They only had a few actors in each haunt as it is, so they were spread thin. Haunted Hayride was fine with actors, though a few more wouldn't hinder it any. Actors clearly knew their roles within the haunts, which was an upside. They were active and mostly spoke lines that pertained to their particular character and room. The actors that were suspended by ropes were a very unique and creative touch in the Hayride and in one of the haunts. One thing that really seemed to struggle within all 6 attractions was that they seemed to be stretched too thin. For a place that advertises itself as a theme park-like atmosphere with top haunts, there really should have been more to the place and its attractions. They have the budget for great haunts, and you could see where the money and time was implemented, but it didn't come together very well. It was a disappointment all around. They might have been better putting all their resources into the Hayride and 1 or 2 of the other haunts, or maybe just the Hayride. I feel like they didn't really focus too much on any individual haunt. There was no cohesion in the haunts, just random haunted houses with no immersion, except for the Hayride. Nothing really to scare you or immerse you. Each haunt seemed to have one good thing they did well as far as setup, but they need to focus on making everything good, not just one thing. The haunts had really good, cool elements, but they were separate from one another. If they could combine those elements, they could have 1 or 2 really special attractions. They are expensive for not being very good. $37.99 on Fridays, $43.99 on Saturdays, and $37.99 on Sundays per person. That is for 1 ticket. For an additional $10, you get the Sideshow Package, and another $10 on top of that gets you the VIP. It was overpriced, which I don't usually say because I know the effort, time, and money that goes into making haunted attractions, but I've been to top-rated haunts that don't charge that much and probably could. They are not an easy thing to assemble, and they don't always come out great. The attractions here felt generic as far as haunted attractions go, and the outside setup, but the outside setup was very nice. Some of the highlights for Night Terrors, the midway setup and decor was very good, and the Hayride, I really enjoyed the Hayride. Acting, especially in the Hayride, was really good. The actors suspended on ropes, the lighting, the fog, set design within the haunts, especially the Hayride and the mine shaft, those were all very good highlights that they could elaborate on. My main recommendation for Night Terrors would be to make more noise in your haunts. It was too quiet most of the time. Music and sound really help hold a haunted house together. Sound also will help hide the clunking and hissing and the animatronics. Hear an actor talk to you clearly isn't as scary as when they approach you and music and sound is going on when you're already kind of disoriented. Add music, more sound effects, and actors. Have more actors to utilize props. Work on the animatronic issues. Add a few more actors, at least per haunted house if you plan on keeping all of them up. And for the love of everyone, get rid of the alien cage clowns, or make the attraction fit your story, because you have a really nice story there, I believe, and it could be made scarier. The actors had on cheap clown makeup and costumes. I feel like it was misadvertised. I would love it to improve and come back. I am trying to give constructive criticism because I love haunted houses, and I would love to see Night Terrors improve. I don't mind paying a lot for a ticket if it blows you out of the water. I hope this review was helpful, and whether or not you visit this haunt, let me know what you thought if you check it out. Like, comment, subscribe for more.